It was late June, the kind of summer heat that doesn't just rest on your skin but settles deep into your bones. The sun loomed overhead like it had something to prove, and the world around me seemed to move a little slower, a little heavier. Even the air felt burdened, thick with the weight of another long, restless season. That Friday had already taken its toll. I was physically tired and mentally drained from a week of endless meetings, passive aggressive emails, and that peculiar exhaustion that comes not from doing too much, but from holding it all together. I had just picked up groceries for the weekend, juggling plastic bags and slipping mental lists when it happened. A sputter, then a click, then silence. I turned the key again. Nothing. Just the resigned hum of a car that had finally decided it had enough. I was parked right there in the middle of the grocery store parking lot, the engine dead and the temperature rising. In that moment, it didn't matter what was wrong mechanically. I was emotionally out of gas. I felt a surge of helplessness, not because of the car itself, but because of what it represented. Another thing going wrong. Another thing I didn't have time for. Another weight added to an already full plate. And here's the part that caught me off guard. I almost cried. Right there in broad daylight, next to a crooked cart return and a melting bag of frozen peas. It wasn't the car, it was the accumulation of everything else. Life, in that moment, had tilted just a few degrees past manageable. I did what anyone would do, called roadside assistance. They said it would be a couple of hours at least. That's when I remembered. Josh. My nephew Josh was staying with me for the summer. He had just turned 22 and was studying mechanical engineering at the local state university. I didn't know much about cars beyond topping off windshield wiper fluid, but Josh? He had grease in his veins. He was one of those people who genuinely enjoyed taking things apart to see how they worked. Radios, kitchen appliances, bicycles, you name it. Lately, he'd been helping his professor restore an old 1960s Dodge Charger. Every evening, he'd come home with blackened hands and a kind of satisfied grin that only comes from fixing something broken. So I called him. He picked up right away. "Hey, Aunt Caroline, what's up?" I tried to sound casual, not wanting to sound desperate, but he caught on quickly. "Car trouble? Want me to come by?" I exhaled a breath I didn't realize I was holding. "If it's not too much trouble. Be there in 20. He showed up exactly 18 minutes later, grease-stained t-shirt, baseball cap turned backward, and that same easygoing energy I remembered from when he was little. He used to be all elbows and knees, an awkward teenager who once tried to fix my vacuum and ended up disassembling the entire thing. But now, he moved with purpose, like he knew exactly what he was doing. "Let's see what we're working with," he said, popping the hood open like a seasoned mechanic. I stepped back, watching him work. There was something mesmerizing about the way he moved, confident, focused, and strangely calming. For 20 minutes, he poked and prodded, murmuring under his breath as I stood nearby feeling completely out of my depth. Finally, he closed the hood and turned to me with a grin. "Try it now." I slid into the driver's seat, turned the key, and the engine roared to life like it had never faltered. "Josh, what did you do?" He shrugged like it was nothing. "Loose wire near the ignition coil, nothing major." But it felt major, not just because he fixed it, but because he showed up. Because he saw I was struggling and didn't hesitate to help. That kind of presence, it's rare. As thanks, I promised to make his favorite dinner that night, my famous fake ziti, which wasn't really ziti and wasn't really famous, but he loved it anyway. Back at home, he helped me carry the groceries inside while waving off my repeated thank yous. Seriously, Aunt Caroline, it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing. It was grace in the form of a nephew who had quietly grown into someone capable, kind, and deeply decent. Over dinner, the conversation drifted from casual to unexpectedly meaningful. I asked him about school, about what he wanted to do after graduation. Most kids his age might have said they weren't sure, or that they'd figure it out later. But Josh had a plan. "I want to open a garage," he said. "Not just a business, though, like a place where people can come and learn, especially folks who can't afford a mechanic. I want it to be part repair shop, part community space." I sat there stunned, pasta fork halfway to my mouth. It wasn't just the ambition, it was the empathy, the intentionality behind it. I realized in that moment just how much he'd grown. The next morning, while I cleaned the house, Josh asked if he could take another look at the car. "Just want to make sure it's really good to go," he said. Hours passed. Around mid-afternoon, he walked in with a sheepish smile. Okay, so I may have gone a little overboard. I raised an eyebrow. What do you mean? He motioned for me to come outside. The car looked brand new. He had cleaned every inch of it, inside and out. He fixed a small dent I'd forgotten about, replaced the crusty old windshield wipers, and even added a new air freshener that smelled like citrus and sunshine. Josh, you didn't have to do all this, he grinned. Consider it a thank you for letting me crash here all summer. But he wasn't done. He reached into his backpack and pulled out a small device with wires and a digital screen. This is something I've been working on, he said. It's a car diagnostic tool. I built it from scratch. It tells you if something's wrong before it becomes a big issue. Want to try it? He plugged it in, pressed a few buttons, and within seconds the screen lit up with data. He explained every part of it with a mix of technical know-how and contagious enthusiasm. I was blown away. You built this? He nodded. Still working out a few bugs, but I think it could help people, especially folks who get taken advantage of by repair shops. He handed it to me. Test it out. Let me know what works, what doesn't. That's when I realized this summer wasn't just about helping me. It was about building something bigger, something good. Word got out quickly. Within weeks, Josh became something of a local legend. Neighbors started dropping by, first with small things like broken toasters or wobbly bikes, then lawnmowers, then an old motorcycle that hadn't run in years. Josh fixed them all, and he never took a penny. Happy to help, he'd say with a smile, wiping grease from his hands. Watching him work with the neighbors was like watching someone discover their purpose in real time. It wasn't just the fixing, it was the way he listened, the way he explained things, the way he empowered others. And then, something extraordinary happened. Mr. Patterson lived 3 houses down. A retired teacher in his late 70s, he was quiet, solitary, and always impeccably dressed in pressed slacks and suspenders. His old Ford had been sitting in his driveway for years, gathering rust and dust. One evening, I came home and found Josh and Mr. Patterson in the driveway. Josh had been secretly working on the old car for weeks, salvaging parts, fixing what he could, doing it all by hand. That evening, the engine turned over for the first time in over a decade. Mr. Patterson teared up. He clutched Josh in a hug so tight it looked like he might never let go. I didn't think I'd ever drive again, he said softly. And in that moment, I understood something. Fixing cars wasn't just about engines or metal. It was about restoring dignity, giving people pieces of their lives back. Later that evening, we sat on the porch as the sun melted into the horizon. You really went all out, I said. Josh just looked ahead. I just feel like if I can make life easier for someone, even in small ways, then why not? I told him how proud I was, not just for what he did, but for who he was becoming. He looked down, smiling shyly. You always believed in me, even when I broke your vacuum. We both laughed. That summer, Josh didn't just fix my car. He fixed something in me. He reminded me that kindness isn't loud or grand. It's persistent, quiet, powerful. He showed me that small gestures can ripple out in ways we never expect. When Josh finally packed up and left for college, the house felt quieter, emptier. But it wasn't empty, not really. He left behind his tools, his half-finished notebook of sketches, his diagnostic device that I still use every few months. But more than that, he left behind a shift in me. I started paying more attention, offering help where I could, listening more, judging less, baking cookies for the neighbor just because, saying thank you with sincerity, asking people about their stories. Josh had left a mark, a quiet, enduring kind. And I knew, wherever he went, he'd leave that same mark on the world. I still drive the same car, and every time I turn the key and hear that engine hum, I think of that summer. Of Josh. Of how sometimes, when you least expect it, someone walks into your life and reminds you how beautiful it is to care. And every time I remember, I smile.